Every sport has its scandals, but baseball's biggest one? It started with a trash can. Not steroids, not pine tar, a trash can. 2017, the Houston Astros looked unstoppable. The perfect mix of data, talent, and destiny. They lifted a World Series trophy in an entire city. But under the roar of 40,000 fans, there was another sound, one that didn't belong. Bang, bang, pitch incoming. Here's the gut punch. Baseball runs on trust, on fair play, not perfect play. The Astros cracked that trust wide open. A center field camera, a live feed to the dugout, a code, and the signal, a bat to a trash can, one bang for curve, silence for heat. It was genius, and it was poison. How far would you go to win? And how long can a lie last when millions are watching? This isn't some dusty scandal you shrug off. This one burned careers, cost jobs, changed rules, and somehow gave baseball one of its strangest redemption stories. Start with the hardware. A fixed camera in center field pointed at the catcher's fingers. The feed ran into the bowels of Minute Maid Park, then up to a monitor right by the dugout. A player or staffer would glance, decode, and send a signal to the hitter before the pitch crossed the rubber. The communication method was low-tech, almost silly, which is why it worked in plain sight. If you heard a bat smack a trash can from the tunnel, that meant off-speed. No bang meant fastball. Sometimes one thud meant breaking ball, two meant changeup. It evolved across the season, but the core idea was kindergarten simple. Tell the hitter what's coming. Bang means wait. Silence means fire. The people pushing it mattered. Bench coach Alex Cora had the nerve and the vision. Carlos Beltrán had the clout in a room and a reputation for picking signs the old-fashioned way. Together, they scaled a clubhouse parlor trick into a system. Around them, players cycled through a station that looked like a video room but functioned like a code lab. There was a second lane, too. In the replay room, staff used a program the club nicknamed Code Breaker to crack sign sequences from video. If they solved the pattern, runners at second could pass it along with a tap, a touch, a lean. Suddenly, the Astros owned both the live bang channel and the on-base whisper channel. If you knew a slider was coming on 1 and 2, wouldn't you load early and go hunting? If you knew a heater was next, wouldn't you cheat a half tick and get the barrel out? Be honest, if you knew what pitch was coming, could you resist swinging? Players aren't robots. They worried about getting caught. When an opposing pitcher paused mid-inning and stared at the dugout, the air changed. But success is addicting, and the wins kept piling up. In a loud ballpark, the bangs blended into crowd noise. Broadcast mics missed most of it, and baseball's culture of everyone looks for an edge brought them time. That time ran out the moment someone decided the truth mattered more than silence, which brings us to the person who said it out loud. The whistleblower and the exposure. The whole house doesn't fall if someone inside doesn't point it to crack. Mike Fiers did. A former Astro turned Oakland A's pitcher, Fiers went on the record in November 2019 and told The Athletic exactly what Houston had built. Not rumor, not a blind quote. His name attached, his face on camera. He said there was a camera, a monitor, a live decode, and a trash can. And when a former teammate puts that in print, the sport listens. Because now you have a witness with a ring and receipts. Fiers didn't glide away unaffected. He got called a snitch. He got threats. Old school voices said he broke a clubhouse code. Others said he did the only honest thing left to do. Commissioner Rob Manfred backed him publicly, saying Fiers did the industry a service. That's rare air. When the commissioner praises the guy who detonated your story, the probe is already sprinting. MLB's investigation rolled like a combine. 70 interviews, 70,000 emails, video analysis, time-stamped clips, staff rosters, replay room logs. They even tracked a panic in September 2017 when a White Sox pitcher appeared to notice the banging mid-at-bat and the dugout grew jumpy. The picture that emerged wasn't a one-off prank. It was a months-long operation that began about 2 months into the season, survived into the postseason, and, in a limited form, bled into the following year. The Athletic's initial report lit the match, and MLB's report poured daylight over every corner. Fans started scrubbing broadcasts for audio pops. Internet sleuths posted compilations of bangs synced to pitches. Opposing players spoke up about the weird at-bats at Minute Maid. The conversation shifted from did they to how much and who knew. And if you're wondering whether anyone else was doing something similar, you weren't alone. Other clubs had flirted with gray areas. Houston crossed the line with a camera, a monitor, and a drumbeat. Here's the cliff we're walking toward. Once the league made it official in January 2020, the consequences arrived fast. A record fine, lost draft picks, and the top of the org chart blasted away in an afternoon. Careers were rerouted before dinner service. And in New York and Boston, names tied to Houston's 2017 bench felt the shockwaves too. When the truth came out, the punishment came fast, and jobs disappeared overnight. Ready to see how hard the hammer fell? The fallout and punishments. The investigation didn't drag on for years. Once MLB had its evidence, it dropped a hammer. On January 13, 2020, Commissioner Rob Manfred went public with what he called one of the most thorough investigations in league history. 70 interviews, 70,000 emails, all confirming one thing: the Astros cheated for real and for months. The penalties were record-setting: a $5 million fine, the maximum allowed under MLB's constitution, the loss of their first and second round draft picks in both 2020 and 2021, suspensions for manager A.J. Hinch and general manager Jeff Luhnow that would keep him out for the entire season, postseason included. Within hours of that announcement, Astros owner Jim Crane fired both of them. One moment they were leading a franchise, the next they were out of baseball. The fallout didn't stop there. Alex Cora, the mastermind behind much of the operation, was running the Red Sox by then. He was immediately suspended for his role in the Houston scandal. Carlos Beltrán, the only player named in the report, had been hired by the Mets to manage their team. He lasted 2 months and never even managed a game. He and the Mets mutually agreed to part ways, but everyone knew what that meant. The irony was that no players were punished. None. MLB gave him immunity in exchange for cooperation. The league's reasoning? Too many were involved, and disciplining players eventually would be messy and impractical. Manfred said accountability belonged to management. To fans, that sounded like corporate talk for, "We didn't want a player strike." It created a split. Some believed justice was done. Others thought MLB protected the product instead of the integrity. When you strip draft picks but let the guys who swung the bats walk free, is that punishment or damage control? Be honest. If your team lost a title to a trash can symphony, would that feel like justice? Or would you still be hearing banging in your sleep? When the dust settled, Houston's trophy stayed in the case, but their reputation, that was gone. And their next move was somehow worse than the scandal itself: the apology tour. The apology tour. February 2020. The Astros called a press conference at their spring training facility in West Palm Beach, Florida, hoping to put the scandal behind them. What they delivered looked more like a public relations car crash. Alex Bregman stepped up first, reading from a short script in a tone that could have come from a hostage video. "I'm really sorry about the choices that were made." That was it. No emotion, no explanation, no ownership. Then came Jose Altuve. "We feel remorse for the impact on our fans and the game of baseball." Polite, distant, robotic. And then came owner Jim Crane, whose job was to sound like the adult in the room. Instead, he managed to say the quiet part out loud. "I don't think it impacted the game," he told reporters. You could almost hear PR directors fainting in the back. The same man who fired his GM and manager was now claiming the cheating didn't affect anything. Fans hated it. Other players mocked it. Reporters shredded it. Former PR executives called it one of the worst crisis management attempts in sports history. And the Astros, already the villains of baseball, dug themselves even deeper. When the reporters were finally allowed inside the clubhouse later, a few players tried to say what the podium speeches hadn't. Carlos Correa admitted, "We were wrong for everything we did in 2017. We affected careers." Justin Verlander, who joined the team mid-season that year, said, "I wish I'd said more. Looking back, I can't reverse my decision." It sounded human. Maybe too late, but finally honest. Still, no one was buying forgiveness. Fans wanted sincerity. What they got was damage control. Because by this point, it wasn't about who was sorry. It was about how deeply baseball had been cracked open. The human cost. For all the noise, the real pain hit quiet. Because behind every trash can bang, there was a pitcher who lost something he couldn't get back. Start with Yu Darvish. In 2017, he was supposed to be the Dodgers' ace for the World Series. Instead, he got shelled in games 3 and 7. His ERA ballooned to 21.6. People called him soft, said he choked on the big stage. But what if he didn't? What if the Astros already knew what was coming before he even let go of the ball? Darvish later said the cheating might have ended his confidence for years. That kind of doubt doesn't show up in the box score, but it eats you alive. Then there's Mike Bolsinger. You probably don't know the name. That's the point. On August 4th, 2017, he pitched against the Astros, gave up 4 runs in 1/3 of an inning, and was sent back down 2 days later. He never pitched in the majors again. Years later, he sued the Astros, claiming their cheating ended his career. The case got tossed to Texas courts and then dismissed, but his message stuck. One night of garbage banging changed a man's life. And don't forget the Dodgers as a whole. They lost the 2017 World Series in 7 games. 2 of those losses coming in Houston. 18 runs, 26 hits, 6 home runs. Numbers that hit differently now. Their front office said they suspected sign stealing even then, but suspicions don't win appeals. They went home empty-handed, and Houston went home as champions. That's the part fans forget. Every celebration leaves a shadow. For every champagne-soaked locker room in Houston, there was silence in Los Angeles. For every parade float, there was a player wondering if his ERA, his contract, or his legacy got wrecked by a lie. And that silence, the human cost, lasted long after the booze started. The public backlash. If you want to see baseball fans unite, give them someone to hate. By 2021, the pandemic finally lifted and crowds came back. And when they did, oh boy, they brought the noise. In Oakland, fans banged on empty seats like percussionists in a protest band. At Yankee Stadium, they screamed, "Cheaters!" so loud it sounded like October baseball in April. They brought inflatable trash cans, homemade Houston Astros signs, and a creativity level that would make an art teacher proud. One athletics fan even rented a plane to fly over the stadium with a banner that read, "Houston Astros." That's dedication. And it never stopped. Every city had its own remix. Seattle booed Astro players during the 2023 All-Star Game. Guys who weren't even on the 2017 team. Some fans kept it funny. Others went full chaos mode. There were trash can costumes, signs shaped like recycling bins, and even fans tossing fake cans on the field. You can't make that up. What's crazy is that COVID bought Houston time. No fans in 2020 meant no live backlash. By 2021, the anger had aged like cheap wine. Stronger, sharper, and ready to spill. Every away game became a trial. Every at-bat a reminder. Players couldn't even do media appearances without hearing the word cheater. It's easy to laugh at the jokes, but under all that noise was something heavier. Baseball fans felt betrayed. This wasn't just about one team breaking a rule. It was about breaking the unspoken trust that makes the game work. Fans didn't want perfect. They wanted honest. And in that sea of jeers and flying trash cans, one man quietly walked into the storm and said, "I'll take it from here." He wasn't part of the scandal, but he'd spend years cleaning up its mess. His name, Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker, the cleanup crew. When Houston hired Dusty Baker in January 2020, it wasn't just a baseball move. It was damage control. They needed someone with respect, calm, and decades of credibility to steady the ship. Baker was the guy. He wasn't there to relive 2017. He was there to remind everyone what integrity looked like in a dugout. Dusty's first task wasn't winning, it was surviving. He inherited a roster full of talent and baggage. Every road trip was a circus. Every press conference was a minefield. Reporters wanted apologies. Fans wanted confessions. Baker wanted to play baseball. And somehow, he did. Under his leadership, the Astros reached the ALCS in his first season, then another, then a World Series. And in 2022, they won it all. Clean. No trash cans, no whispers, no question marks. It was Dusty's first World Series title as a manager, and it couldn't have come at a better time. That championship didn't erase 2017, it never will, but it reminded the world that people can rebuild trust one honest season at a time. Baker's calm presence turned boos into respect, at least for a few hours at a time. By the time he retired in 2023, Dusty had 2,183 career wins and something even rarer, a reputation untouched by the scandal that swallowed the team he saved. He didn't erase the past, but he helped Houston move forward. Dusty Baker gave Houston back its heartbeat. He proved you can lead with grace and still win. But even as he restored some pride to the dugout, the shadow of 2017 refused to fade. Because the question that still haunts baseball isn't about who managed to move on, it's about what that season left behind. Legacy and the asterisk. Years later, the data scientists got their say. MLB commissioned research claimed there was no measurable statistical gain from the Astros cheating, no clear difference in batting averages or slugging percentages at home versus on the road. On paper, the scheme might not have helped much, but try telling that to the players who lost, or to the fans who stopped believing what they saw. Because some things don't show up in the numbers. Trust, respect, reputation. Once those are gone, there's no stat that brings them back. Carlos Beltrán found out the hard way. Once a surefire Hall of Famer, now he's stuck in limbo. Voters hesitate, analysts hedge. Every time his name comes up, so does the word Astros. One bad headline followed him from clubhouse to broadcast booth. His legacy used to be leadership. Now it's suspicion. The rest of the team faces the same echo. Even new players who had nothing to do with 2017 still get booed in Astros jerseys. It doesn't matter who's wearing it. To the crowd, that orange star still represents the trash can. You can win clean, play clean, live clean. But that uniform still carries the echo of 2017. That's the real punishment. Not the fine, not the suspensions, not even the lost draft picks. The Astros won a World Series, but they lost something bigger. Credibility. The ring shines, but it doesn't glow the same. The scandal became a cautionary tale for every sport that leans on technology. Every player tempted by shortcuts. Because, in the end, baseball didn't just lose innocence. It lost belief. And that's where the story ends. Or maybe it doesn't, because every time someone mentions the 2017 Astros, every time a bat meets a ball and a crowd roars, there's still one question hanging in the air. Was it worth it? Unanswered questions. 7 years later, one thing is clear. This story never really ended. For every fact that surfaced, a dozen questions still hang in the air, like a curveball that never lands. Were the Astros really the only ones doing it? MLB's investigation said Houston's methods were the most elaborate, but whispers swirled around other teams. The Yankees, the Red Sox, both caught using video rooms in ways that flirted with the same line. The difference? Their scandals didn't involve trash cans echoing through national broadcasts. So, was Houston just the one that got caught first, or the one that went too far? And what about the league itself? Some believe MLB made an example of the Astros to protect its image. A scandal that big needed a villain, and Houston filled the role perfectly. The timing was convenient. One big, clean story to reassure the public that the league handled it. But did they really? The players got immunity. The trophy stayed in the case. Fans got anger instead of closure. Then came the question that still divides fans everywhere. Did the cheating actually decide the 2017 World Series? Statistically, maybe not. Emotionally, definitely yes. 2 of Houston's 4 home wins were offensive explosions. Coincidence? Maybe. But when one team knows what pitch is coming, the argument about how much it helped feels meaningless. Every sport has its gray areas, but baseball's gray turned into a full-blown moral fog. Maybe the bigger question isn't who cheated, but what baseball became after it. A game that used to be about instinct and timing now carries surveillance cameras, compliance officers, and suspicion in every dugout. The Astros scandal didn't just rewrite the record books. It rewrote the way baseball sees itself. And that's something no punishment, no apology, and no championship can undo. Because what started with a camera in center field ended with a mirror pointed at the entire sport. The fallout that never ends. So here we are, years later, still talking about the Houston Astros. The story that began with a bang on a trash can and turned into baseball's loudest echo. Cheating, exposure, punishment, redemption. Every step was louder than the last. The Astros paid fines, lost leaders, gained villains, and somehow still won again. But through all the scandals and speeches, one truth never faded. Baseball forgave, but fans never forgot. Every city they visit still remembers. Every highlight reel still comes with an asterisk in the comments. The boos don't fade. They evolve. The scandal didn't just stain a season. It became part of the game's DNA. And now the question turns to you. Do you think the Astros should still be called champions? Or does 2017 deserve an asterisk forever? Comment your thoughts below, because the debate hasn't ended, and maybe it never will. And if you want the untold stories behind baseball's biggest controversies, the ones that changed the game long after the final out, hit subscribe. Because every dynasty leaves a legacy, and some leave a dent.